I don't know if you can hear me while I have this placeholder up, so I'm going to talk a little bit and see what people say. Cool. Let me get this out of the way. So, all right. I guess here we are. A lot of echoes, actually. There shouldn't be because I have my volume turned off everywhere and I'm not listening to my own shit. Anyways. Oh, we got a real crowd here today. Okay, so I guess I'm just going to start by sort of showing what's here and explaining what I wanted to do next. So let's just make sure that we have a fresh database going on here. So right now I have some basic stuff set up. This is kind of my product dashboard with a list of various products that are in the system. And you can kind of go in and start editing them and stuff. Most of this stuff is just like pretend, doesn't actually work. But the way I had it set up originally was when you'd go to add a new product, you'd have to specify all the information before you could create it. So what I've been working on this morning and what I want to continue working on now is basically being able to just add a product by only specifying the name. This is kind of a crappy placeholder step for now. I think the way I want to have it work eventually is either click this button and have it like expand out a little form field inline, or maybe a little modal or something like that. But anyways, you create a product. So the one that we're going to create today is going to be called dog food. And that drops you into the sort of edit screen right away. So what I wanted to work on was basically being able to do like a client-side live image preview here whenever you go to change the image. So right now this is just kind of static stuff that doesn't actually work, at least this image part. So we're going to need to work through the markup and all that stuff and figure out how we need to set it up to work as an actual file input thing. Yeah, Taylor's right. I don't use any frameworks. I used to use Bootstrap a lot. When they switched to Sass, I kind of gave up on it because I hate Sass. So I kind of put together my own thing that's built in less, that's somewhat Bootstrap inspired as far as like the naming conventions and stuff, but it's sort of been growing over the last couple years into my own little thing. So anyways, yeah, what we want to be able to do is get it to a point where we can click this, get our file dialog, pick an image, and have it preview here, and do all that with Vue, and be able to save and have that image show up. So this used to just be like a big ugly form, but I really wanted the edit screen to sort of mimic the actual checkout page a little bit more. So it felt like you were kind of editing the actual form. So that's why we're kind of going with this approach. So if you see, if I go into like another one, it actually shows the real one and kind of looks similar to the actual checkout process. So yeah, let's figure out how we're going to do it. What do I hate about Sass? I just think it's not good. It is very like procedural. It doesn't behave the way CSS behaves. Like declaration order is super important. You have to declare a variable before you use it. Less works a lot more intuitively to me. I hate that in Sass you have to create mix-ins explicitly instead of being able to mix in an existing class. So like something I do in Less a lot, most of my stuff is very utility driven, but a lot of the time I'll have components that kind of graduate out of those utilities. So if you look in this Less folder, I have tons of utilities like these spacing utilities, which are hard to see because this is all kind of dynamically generated. But if you look at something like, let's see if I can find an example of something that's built out of other utilities. I mean, this is something I do a lot, right? So here's like some utilities for absolute positioning. So this pins the element to the top, to the right, the bottom, the left. Then I have one that pins it on the y-axis that's just composed of the one that pins it to the top and the one that pins it to the bottom. You can't do this sort of thing as nicely in Sass. So anyways, let's figure out how this is going to work. So here's our kind of edit view. This is the markup that I have right now while I was just kind of playing around and figuring out what it needed to look like and stuff. So there's no actual file input thing here or anything like that. And yeah. So I think one of the tricky things is going to be that we want clicking this to simulate clicking like an actual file input. So the trick that I've seen that seems to work the best for that is basically making this whole element the input label, since the label for any element, is clickable, just like clicking the actual button. So let's think about what that might look like. So say that we had, so I have some utilities for like hiding stuff. So here's like the pseudo hidden one, which I've used in the past to basically just like make something be on the screen as far as everything in the browser can tell, but not be visible at all, because you can't use a label for a hidden file input. It actually has to exist. So if we were to go and add a file input here, maybe we stick it inside of this box, which represents what shows up on hover here. Let's put a input type file and give it a class of pseudo hidden so you can't actually see it. So if we go ahead and pull this up now and kind of poke around in here, we should see that that is there, but it's just out of the document flow and not interfering with anything else. We'll give it a name. Let me think what this name has to be. Let's go to the products controller and look at the update method, because I used to have a different version of this where everything was just kind of a basic form. So it's going to be called banner image. So we'll give this a name of banner image. And then I think what we want to do is basically make this entire div a label instead of a div. So now when we click anything here, it should trigger this file input. And we might not need this as clickable class that lets me kind of simulate the cursor pointer and all that stuff. So I've got two computers going here so I can see the chat. Okay, so let's just see if that did what we wanted it to do. So clicking that does open like my downloads thing now, so you can see all the things I've downloaded. Here's the image that we're going to use for our dog food. So that works now because it thinks this whole thing is a label. So let's get rid of this is clickable thing and see if it still feels like a label in terms of still having like our cursor pointer and stuff. It doesn't. Okay, so we're going to need to have that. Let's make this a little bigger. So I have this utility called hover only. That means this will only show on hover. And this is like a responsive screen size prefix. So that as long as the screen is a certain size, it'll show, but on mobile, it'll always show. Because you don't want things only working on hover on a phone, since there's no way to actually support hover. Okay, so we can go through and click this, and in theory, we can actually update this, and that's actually there now. So there's our dog food. So I'm going to open up the database and get rid of that, because that's the easiest way to do that currently, since we have no way to actually remove images, but that's something that we'll probably want to add. So dog food, we'll have a null image path. Okay, so getting this previewing on the client side. We don't want to write any nasty JavaScript. We want to do it with Vue.js. I don't want to make this entire form like an async JavaScript form yet. I think I just want to make this portion use Vue. So we have to kind of think about, like, what is this component going to be? I think we could probably make it something pretty specific. Like, we could call it like a banner image file input, or like a banner image upload or something. And we can kind of bake some of that stuff in there. So let's think about how that's going to work. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new Vue component. So inside our JavaScript components folder, we'll create a new file. We'll call it banner image upload.vue, something like that. Here's like some other Vue crap I have kicking around. So it's going to have a template. And for now, we'll just make this basically do nothing fancy, just kind of migrate everything over from the other template. So export defaults. So let's copy this whole thing, paste that into our template here. And we have to think about, like, some stuff here is obviously coming from PHP, which isn't going to work with a Vue component. So we have to figure out how we want to pass that stuff in as props instead. So first thing I'm going to do actually is fix this icon helper. This isn't going to work in Vue.js because this is a blade directive. So the easiest thing I could do there is actually just inline this whole SVG. So we'll take like the whole camera thing here, just paste that in. And let's find out what classes were applied to that so we can copy them. So it looks like it's just got a class of icon. Okay. The next thing that we want to do is this stuff. So the image here is actually just like a div with a set aspect ratio and a background image property. So right now we're checking with Blade, if the product has an image set, then specify the path to that image. Otherwise, specify the path to the placeholder. So I think the easiest thing to do would just be to pass through like a default image and handle the conditional stuff on the PHP side. So let's think about what this is going to look like. Let's head over to our Bootstrap JavaScript file and register this component. No, app. Okay. So we'll pull in banner image upload. And then over here, we can just add a banner image upload tag. And maybe we'll just keep both of them stacked on top of each other temporarily and just work on getting them both to work the same way. So I think I'm going to default to just showing the placeholder image and just see if this is enough to even get this to load. Okay, so we do have both there now, which is good. If we were to go to look at a different product, though, I'm pretty sure, yeah, the Vue one has the placeholder image and the non-Vue one doesn't. So we want to be able to pass through the path. So let's think about how that's going to work. I think we're going to have a prop that's going to be like something like default image. And this will use some blade. But it'll be something like product. Whoa, can't type. So if the product has an image path, then pass through the URL. So this is just the field that stores where it is relative to the file system. And then the URL helper generates the full absolute URL to the actual thing. So if there is an image, then we want to use the image that's there. Otherwise, we want to pass through this placeholder string. And we need to add another curly bracket here. And yes. Now, the reason I was thinking about doing this way originally, because I thought we might be passing through null and having the placeholder be handled in the banner image itself. But you're right. For now, we don't want to have that if we're going to pass through the whole string. Which also, yeah, so that should be okay. Let's make sure that everything's as broken as it was before. So it looks fine. And I will actually make use of this prop and actually accept it in here. So what do we call it? Default image. So we've got a default image here, and now we can use that to interpolate inside this style tag, which is probably not the best way to do it. We probably want to have a computed property for that. So let's add our data thing here, which will just be empty for now. I did not enable anything to save or export the stream, but you can always watch the previous one until I do a new one, so that you'll still be able to watch this whole thing until I do another stream. Okay, so computed. I think we want to have like banner styles or something. And this is where we're going to return an object that has a background image set to template string. And this is going to be our default image to start. Okay, so then we want to bind the style to be banner styles. Hopefully I'm remembering this correctly. Okay, so we have our thing there working. Let's check out a couple other ones. Seems okay. Dog food. Perfect. Okay. So I feel confident that we can get rid of the second one now and just worry about this first one. So let's see if it even still works, at least like setting the dog food thing. So we set the image, we don't get a preview. You know, none of this stuff is working the way that you would want it to, but I bet if we go and look at the file type, does that still have a value? It's not really possible for us to tell. Let's just see. Yeah, it's still there. Okay, cool. Delete that image. By delete it, just being cleared out of the database. It's definitely still taking up space on my hard drive. Okay, so we want to figure out how to do the actual image preview. So I figured this out once before. Shouldn't the image URL determine the empty image too? Yeah, we could move that helper into the product, but I'm not going to do it yet. So here's another project that I was working on once where I first figured out how this worked. So we're going to kind of port over some of this stuff from here. So you have to use this file reader API thing. And we have to listen for that anytime like the actual file input changes. So if we go into our banner image here, we can add an event listener on the input, which I think is for change. And we'll just call this update image preview. So we'll add some methods. Update image preview. And what did I do here? I don't remember if it needs to take in the event or anything. No. Okay, so we need to declare, we need to give ourselves access to the actual input field. So you see here I have like VL equals logo field. So we can do the same sort of thing here for this one. So we can say VL is going to be image field. And let's just copy all of this for now and think about what we need to change and what's actually happening. Okay, so the first thing that we do is declare that we need to have a file reader, and then we set files equal to the files that are attached to the image field. So this is not going to be els.logo field, it'll be els.image field. Because you can have like multiple file input types where you can upload multiple files at a time, this comes back as an array. File reader is a native browser API. So if you look at MDN file reader, you can see here. So let's let you look at that stuff. Yeah, that's a good point about the getting the event target stuff. I'm just going to leave it this way for now, and then we can look at refactoring towards using like the actual target. So what this was doing is, if there were no files there, so if someone clicked to upload a file and then hit cancel, that clears out the file that's there. So you want that to go back to the placeholder. In our case, that's going to have an impact on how we pass this prop through. So I think what we actually are going to want to do is pass this through the way that we were going to do it before. So we're going to want to pass this through as a string. Use single quotes here. Because we're going to want to be able to pass through null, just so that we can move the placeholder behavior into the actual component. So let's just pass through null if there isn't one. Okay. I don't know what the difference between L and ref is, actually. I can't remember what ref does. So let's just see if we get weird random errors because we broke something. Unexpected bracket. I hate when you get errors that are really illogical. Oh, VL is deprecated. All right, let's just switch to using the event version then. So this will take in E, and we'll just do E.targets.files. Everything's all broken. I hate when you get these errors because I literally have no idea where they're actually coming from. But it's likely related to this stuff here. So if I was to just pass in this placeholder thing, I wonder if that would be, if it would be happy with that, or if it'd still be erroring. Okay, so that's better. So part of the error is related to that, and then we can go and get rid of this thing. So we're not relying on that stuff at all. Okay, so null is a string. I wouldn't think that it would want that because like once you do it this way, it's expecting like real JavaScript. Oh yeah, you're right. No, this null should be a string. Got it. Okay. I wonder where it's trying to generate I wonder where it's trying to get that from. That must be, oh, because of the image preview. Because of this thing here. Okay. So let's make an image URL computed property. How is I doing this here? Update logo preview. So yeah, we have to generate the entire URL string. Okay. Okay, I'm thinking about where we want to put this string, basically. Okay, so we're going to have a image preview here. We'll just have that be null to start. And then we're going to have like a... I hate when you're trying to come up with a name for something that's different than this one, because basically what we want to do is have this rely on a computed property. So maybe it's like image preview path. And this can return this dot image preview null. So use a template string for this, and instead of being default image, this will be image preview. Okay, so here this clear logo preview thing can just be image preview equals null for now. I don't want to do, well, we could do the image URL in the model. Let's just wait and see where it goes and think about it. Because I can't decide what I want the behavior to be when someone hits cancel on the upload thing, because we can't go back to PHP to get it then, but it depends if there's already an image or not. So we'll figure it out. Just chill. It'll be fine. Okay. So here, this is actually going to become image preview And this is now going to be, I think we're going to want to bake the URL thing in here too, or just return this .image preview. And this will be image preview path. Who knows what's going to happen? Okay. Dog food. Hey, we have a preview image. So now if we wanted to get rid of that, we should be able to click this and hit cancel. And it goes back to the placeholder, which is kind of clunky, admittedly. But it's better than nothing. So let's save that and see what happens. Giant error. That was a bizarre turn of events. Is it just the edit screen that's failing? So something Vue is failing here. Let's check out what it even saved to the database. So it did put the image there, but now it's complaining. Just that it can't compile the template, which is a little bit weird. So let's go and see what we're even trying to pass through as the banner image thing. That doesn't seem like it should be broken to me. Oh, because this isn't a... That needs to get passed through as a string. Okay. How come it's not a string already? I gotta put single quotes in here. Quotes everywhere. Now that's busted. So we have to carefully consider what quotes we even want to use. Maybe that'll be better. I'm surprised that maybe it'll still work. I don't know. Okay. I'm surprised that image isn't showing up. Okay, so I think we're not even taking advantage of the default image anymore. So can we just do default image here? There we go. Okay, there's our dog food. Yeah, I wonder if it seems like it doesn't care that we are passing through the weird sort of like HTML entity versions of the quotes. So I'm not too worried about that, but let's see if we just use the raw ones. If that makes it nicer. Yeah, that's nicer. So let's just roll with that. Cool. So the behavior that is a little bit weird that I think I still want to figure out is if we have like something with an existing preview image and I click this and then hit cancel. I expected that to go back to the placeholder, but I guess that's because we haven't actually uploaded an image. So if we clicked this, set it to dog food, clicked it again, canceled, we'd be back to a placeholder state. If we save that, it doesn't care because the way that the backend is set up right now, there's no way to tell it to basically delete the existing image. So once you've set an image, there's no way to get rid of it. So I've been trying to think about how I even want to handle that. Because it's a little bit kind of bizarre. I don't want to have it delete the image when you hit save if you haven't set a new image, because like you can imagine a situation where if I go here, right now the file input has no value, right? Because I haven't clicked it to choose a new image. So I don't want hitting save here to delete the existing image just because I didn't attach a new one. So the only options that I can really think of are basically like another input that kind of captures the state of whether or not I've actually decided to explicitly get rid of the image. It's almost like we want to have like some sort of way to eliminate this image by like clicking like an X in the corner or something, and then have that set a hidden input field or something that's like remove banner image and have that set to true, which I don't know, is kind of crappy. There might be cases where you'd want to delete an image. So one thing that I want to support with this app is, say you don't have an image because like you're not artistic or something. It would be nice if I could at least, make this gone, but then like at the top of this card have like border top, like 8 pixels solid, and then just like use whatever the theme color is that you've chosen. And maybe it's bigger than that. But, just like something that's like, okay, it's still kind of styled, even though you don't have an image. So if you have a crappy image and you don't have a better one and you just want to go to like this basic styling that's just based on the title with like a little bit of an accent color, it would be nice to be able to support that. So I do want people to be able to eliminate the current image, but it's not the end of the world. So let's migrate the whole database and just kind of go through from the beginning and make sure everything seems like it's working. So we have the seeded products. We want to add this dog food product. Choose a banner image, which would be this cropped dog food. We'll save that. Inevitably, I would like to make this not be like a full page refresh form. Just have it, do a little loading spinner or something. But anyways, if we go back now, we can see that's still there. I can set it to be really expensive dog food. And the image is still there, which is good. The world's best expensive dog food. Uploading files is hard because it's a subset of forms, which are hard still. The worst part of doing things on the internet is forms. So one thing that sucks is like when we refresh, we get this sort of like jank. So there's 2 ways that we could solve that. We could either show a placeholder until it loads. So one way to do that is basically to sort of copy this markup, but simplify it a bit. And I have to go and look at my layout app. Do I have Cloak on this? So if I have like a product checkouts new. Okay, so we can throw Cloak on our app container here so that we can style things underneath it. So we pasted this in. So one option would be to copy this. Maybe we don't even need anything here, actually. We could just have a div that takes up all that space, but we can have have some like view helpers. So this displays it as block when it's cloaked, but as soon as the cloak is gone, all these helpers get made invisible. So we can say v cloak block here. This will be displayed as a block level element until Vue is done compiling. So this way, you know, we just have to wait for the image to load after Vue compiles, which is not too bad. I don't mind that. The other option is to like simulate kind of what happens here, where it kind of fades in once the whole thing is ready, which is kind of neat too. So if we wanted to do that, I think we could just comment this out. And then on the form, we could basically steal what I have here. So transition, fade, slow, appear. And then find the bottom of this form and close out that transition tag. And just kind of see if that looks cooler. It might feel weird because the rest of the page is going to be there. And probably you'll still get a weird problem with sizes. Yeah, it's almost like its own flavor of bad. So this is hidden. So if we did vcloak hidden here, pretty sure it's still going to be as bad because it's just not going to, like you can see the whole footer. So that's horrible. So our previous option was certainly better. Where we sort of simulate that. So one thing that I've been thinking about, which I haven't tried yet, but maybe this is a good place to try it, is this is a common thing that I run into with Vue when you're using Vue in a mostly server rendered application, where you have the whole site is rendered on the server, but you're sprinkling little Vue components in. You have lots of situations where most of the page is loaded, but you have to wait for the Vue components to load and it pushes things around. So this kind of pattern of like creating another element that takes up the same amount of space as the Vue component is something that I do pretty regularly. So what I've been thinking would be kind of neat is to extract all my Vue components into Blade components that contain Vue components, just so I can put like the placeholder version of it there at the same time. So I kind of want to see what that would feel like to do, because then you can pass through all the props and stuff the same way, since you can like have scoped variables that get passed in with Blade stuff. So let's look at our resources views. So I'll put this in products folder. I don't know, components seems fine. And we can call this banner image upload.blade.php. So then we can copy all this stuff and paste that in here. And then instead of passing through product image path like this, we would actually just have to pass through, let's copy all this before we screw anything up and just paste that in here so we don't forget it. But we can just pass the default image through to this component. So this could just be default image. And then when we include that component, products.components, it's not a real Blade component because I don't need that slot behavior, so I'll just use a regular include. Banner image upload, and then we can pass default image. What do we call it? Default image camel case. And then we can use this logic for that. And it actually will be kind of nicer because we don't have to use these single quotes everywhere. So we can just say product image path, then product image URL. Otherwise, null. So let's see if that does the exact same thing. Seems to work. Yeah, let's just like take a random screenshot of something. Or, yeah, let's change the image to something else. Here's like some random code. Seems to still work. Change it back to our dog food. Yeah. So that's kind of a neat pattern. You can include kind of the cloaked state inside your component then and just load everything as blade stuff. Neat. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to do right now. I think that's maybe been over like 45 minutes and got like the image preview stuff working. So yeah, maybe I'll call it there. And I'll try and get this. I'll think about how I want to be able to delete images and stuff going forward. But there we go. So this is how we do kind of image preview stuff with Vue.js. So you just have to use this file reader API. Make sure that you have this onload callback that you register with the reader. So whenever the file thing actually changes, you get the result and stick it in there. So good to go. I'm trying to look at this and think for a second how this is even working. Like what's tying this to the actual oh yeah, you're just passing in like the actual file objects when you use the reader. So this doesn't actually care about the element at all. Yeah, drag and drop would be cool. Something I kind of wonder is if it already works. So a lot of people don't know this, but most file upload buttons, you can already drag and drop onto the actual button. Get me my doc here. So like if you do, oh, that didn't work in that case. If we had an actual button visible here, that was weird that the back behavior didn't work. So this thing that's set to pseudo hidden, if we got rid of all that stuff, it's weird that you still can't see it. Let's put it here. Oh, it's because it's on the hover state. Duh. So let's go to this hover thing. Okay, so see how you have like our gross, ugly file thing here? You can actually just like drag anything. As long as you drag it onto the actual choose file button, that already works, which is kind of cool. It's like built-in drag and drop. But, of course, that doesn't seem to work when it's hidden, which is unfortunate, or not on the label either, which is too bad. So I would like to add drag and drops. That'll be something that I think about going forward. Trying to make like a nice experience for this sort of thing is really, really hard. So if I had like my book in here or something. Oh, it's weird that we don't get the placeholder image now. Why don't we get the placeholder image? You know why? Because what we did here isn't quite the same, is it? So default image comes in. We want to actually null the string still there, which is unfortunate. Okay. No? Okay, so I think sadly we still have to do some hacky stuff here. pass these through as strings, and and all these quotes are really confusing. Okay. Yeah, that seems to be the ticket. Oh. So we still got some quote problems. I guess we got to put quotes around this again, like that. There we go. Okay. Anyways, that seems done now. I'm going to think about how to clean this up more, because kind of sucks, but we'll figure it out. Maybe this logic should actually go in here where there's more context around the fact that it needs to get passed in as like a prop. Yeah, the problem is not like not doing the null check. It's making sure that we're passing null as a string and not PHP null, because it gets turned into JavaScript when it's put in here. So it's all kind of like hairy, because Vue is going to actually, as long as you have this colon here, anything inside the quotes gets treated as real JavaScript. So we have to make sure that we echo out the string null, because that'll get rendered as this, which will turn into actual, JavaScript null. If we pass through just PHP null here, we'd actually get nothing, because when you cast null to a string, you get nothing. But we actually want it as a real null string. So anyways, yeah, I think that's enough for now. I'm going to think about cleaning this up a little bit, but hopefully there was some interesting stuff in there, and I'll try and do another one of these probably next week. Cool. See ya, people.